I just decided, you know what? I've been blessed enough to escape extreme poverty, single parent household, 1990s New York City, crack cocaine, crime, murder at an all-time high. And here comes this kid out of that situation, college educated. So already I'm a step above, but still the streets, they're sexy, man. They're sexy. And if you can't understand it, it's because you're not from there. And the reason that hip hop is so popular is because the streets are sexy. And that sexiness would eventually catch up with me.
Welcome to the show, Sean.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, brother.
Thank you for being here. Today, you're a healthcare entrepreneur. You're the founder of Real Success Mentors, where you are on a mission to transform 10 million inner city youth lives. Now, a goal like that just doesn't come out of nowhere. How did you get this goal?
Life, experiences, pitfalls, mistakes, failures. And a lot of them could have been avoided with the right mentors, with the right leaders in my life, and with the right path being shown to me. Unfortunately, that wasn't my path, but fortunately it was. And the reason I say that is it's really all perspective. I grew up with people that some of them were generational welfare recipients because I grew up pretty poor in the Bronx and I was born with a single mom at the helm. However, I was fortunate enough to have a single mom who would get up and work every day and struggle. And I have really just been a testament to learning the hard way, man. I had to make so many mistakes in order to correct that. I just decided, you know what? I've been blessed enough to escape extreme poverty, single parent household, 1990s New York City, crack cocaine, crime, murder at an all-time high. And here comes this kid of that situation, college educated. So already I'm a step above, but still the streets, they're sexy, man. They're sexy. And if you can't understand it, it's because you're not from there. And the reason that hip hop is so popular is because the streets are sexy. And that sexiness would eventually catch up with me. And I was always straddling the line between college educated job and then hustling to get the extras because a job was never providing me enough of what I wanted financially to have the things I wanted. So I found other ways, and those ways weren't necessarily legal. Some were. They were selling knockoff clothes or sneakers and things like that and just hustling. And then others were illegal and drugs and things like that. Never big time, but always just enough to get me to where I wanted to be. And that would eventually lead to me getting caught up and going to prison, doing 2 years, but having it be the best thing that ever happened to me. So go figure. I really just had the time for the first time in my life to be inside of my own mind with no distractions, no drugs, no alcohol, no numbing agents. So I had to look internally and dig deep. What were the things that led me here to fucking prison? What were the things that robbed me of my freedom? First and foremost, it was me, the decisions I made, the choices I made, the way I was going. It was all in the wrong direction. So that 2 years ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me because it gave me the quiet time that I needed to figure out who Sean Martin was. So I've been to the bottom. I was fortunate enough in that prison cell to define what the next 10 years of my life would look like in black and white composition notebooks because I was fortunate enough to find self-development books, Dale Carnegie, Tony Robbins, all the classics. And boy, that changed everything. My entire perspective on life just shifted. My entire perspective on what I was capable of shifted. So in my darkest time, I was able to dream big. And Real Mentors was actually founded in that prison cell. Because after going through this ordeal and reading these books and learning about who Sean Martin was, I realized that my purpose was to give to others, to be a light, to be an example, to use the things I've learned to go back and help. But it still took me 10 plus years, 15 actually plus years to make it a reality. But that was when it was dreamt up at my deepest, darkest time. And now, finally, 15 years later, I'm making all of that stuff come to fruition.
Let's dig deep. You're young, single mom, she's working hard, you're a little kid. What was the first moment when you remember being attracted to the streets? And why was it?
There were a lot of instances where, guys from the neighborhood, they had the nicer clothes. The girls had the attention of the girls because they had a few dollars in their pocket. Now, the way that they went about that was selling crack because that was where it was at the time. And that was the way for them to make a living and be their own boss. They were older. I didn't know that internal struggle that people had yet. But here I am in my young teens. And in order to get to the train station to go to school, you've got to walk through the park. And then there's always the same cast of characters. And sometimes you stop and you get caught up. And then the next thing, you're holding a gun or you're holding drugs for somebody. And they start to indoctrinate you into this lifestyle. But fortunately, my single mom had cojones, or as we say in Spanish, right? Balls. And she would go out in the street and get me. She would literally go out in the street and get me. And this would obviously embarrass the hell out of me. But she inadvertently saved my life, because if she didn't go out and get me and I was out at 2 or 3 in the morning, who knows what happens to Sean at that point. What attracted me to the life was money, appearances, girls, and just the appeal of a little bit of danger. Anybody who's ever sought out a rush, got on a motorcycle, jumped out of an airplane, or got on a jet ski, it doesn't have to be that dramatic. You're not living until you're almost dying. And what I mean by that is, unless there's an allure or some sense of danger, sense of excitement it's not welling up in us. And the streets offer that up. They offer that excitement. So I was always on the fringes. Thank God I was never deep into the streets, but I was deep enough to see it. I've been in crack houses. I've held guns. I've done things that I'm not proud of, but it was all part of my journey to make me appreciate what a normal, healthy, and fruitful life looks like. So I had that as a baseline to now measure this life against. And you see where my hands are, right? Because I would
Yeah.
never go back to this for myself. But because I know what this has to offer, I feel called to go back and show these young kids and maybe even their parents, because let's face it, their parents haven't seen this. So how would they be able to know what this feels like, looks like, smells like? Maybe a guy who's gone through all the shit that I've gone through, maybe I can show them, plant the seed, tell them there is hope, just don't give up. And there's nothing special about me other than that I believed.
The forces that you're talking about, they just don't affect kids, like you said. They affect adults, they affect entrepreneurs, they affect people with jobs, wanting to look good, wanting to get the attention of the opposite sex, wanting to have money in the bank, to be able to do whatever you want, having that thrill seeking life. Having gone through all of that, when you're working with kids today, or when you're working with adults today who are getting pulled into the gravitational forces of these things, what are some things you tell them right off the bat they need to do so that they don't get sucked into it in the first place?
You've got to have a clear vision. So some of us have ideas or goals or things that we want to accomplish. But unless we're able to define them in the most clear, concise, definitive way, we're always going to go back to who the person we was. We're always going to go back to the person who we were, excuse my bad English, as opposed to the person that we want to be. And I think a lot of it is we don't know what that person looks like other than facade. They have money, they have a nice home, they have nice clothes, they have nice cars. We're not asking the right questions. What are they doing to get those things? And what I've found is a few things. The first and most important thing, I'll repeat it a million times, is belief. If you do not believe that you can accomplish what it is that you're setting out to accomplish, then there's no chance. Without belief, there's absolutely no chance. So belief, number one, have a vision, clearly define it. Take a piece of paper and a pen. What is this life that you want to create look like? And then who is living this life, or who that I have some kind of access or vision or something that I can ask them. So get in the room of people that you're going to be outdone by. And what I mean by that is put yourself in a room where you're the dumbest, brokest person who is striving to be better, and those people will then lift you up. But if you're the person in the street that has big dreams and you're looking to the people around you without dreams to lift you up, it's not going to happen. You need to be pulled up by the people around you. And just the same, you need to be pulled by your vision. So the vision has to be so clear that it's pulling you toward it, as opposed to this motivation, which obviously comes and goes. I can see a 30-second clip on Instagram and go do a good set in the gym and kill it because I'm motivated. But then that goes. But if you have the vision, the pull is what really starts to take you away from the thermostat and the gravity of the old self that you have, because that's all you know. And I think that's the curse for so many people. Doesn't matter where you start. It's just not having the examples of what it looks like. So now I strive to be the brokest, dumbest guy in any mastermind, any room that I go into, because I got nowhere to go but up. And let me tell you, I've got one coming up in November. It is a very exclusive group of entrepreneurs from across the country and the world. And there's a good chance that out of the 40 or 50 people, very exclusive group, I'm going to be the dumbest, brokest guy in the room on paper. But if we got to sitting down and talking about life, I'm sure that I could teach the CEO of whatever corporation a couple of things. And I'm scared. I'm still scared to go in that room and look stupid. But I have the wins. I have the stacked confidence of all the mistakes and fuck ups and still being able to move forward, to have enough confidence to know that's a story that I'm telling myself. And I start to tell myself the other story, that I am good enough, that I am supposed to be in that room and I'm just as smart and capable as everybody. And even though my bank balance may not say that today, one day it will. And that's faith. And faith is the third thing. Belief, clear vision, and faith. Faith that whatever you're going through today, no matter how bad, is going to pass. And no matter how good, it's going to pass as well. So stay focused. Believe that the world, the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in, has a higher purpose for you, even greater than you have for yourself. And that I was fortunate enough to find for myself through sobriety a couple of years ago. For decades, I had used alcohol and marijuana and other drugs to numb a lot of the things that I didn't want to deal with, or put off some of the things that I didn't want to deal with. So 2 years ago, I got sober, and it's given me the clarity to be able to even have this conversation. 2 years ago, this conversation would not have been the same. And that's progress. And we have to have the faith that the steps that we're taking today is helping us progress toward the vision that we have for our lives.
You talked about being in the mastermind and being not the smartest one on pen and paper, but having the life that you have lived. You probably could teach a lot of things to even the CEO. I always say this thing: suffering gives us wisdom that books don't. When you have suffered and you have lived a life, a little bit more than somebody who just read a book. Not to take that away from them.
No, absolutely. And I still
Right?
suffer. I was on the
Yeah.
treadmill today, brother, because I took some steps back, because I have so many things going on that I want to do. I want to do the Real Mentors nonprofit. I got the Real Mentors podcast. I got commercial real estate investments. I got the business, the day-to-day stuff going on. I've got 3 masterminds. I've got speechcraft class. And today I was on the treadmill. I broke down. I broke down first out of gratitude, because I get to live this amazing life. I get to have all these goals. Even if I fall short on a few, I'm still ahead, way ahead of where I started. But I also broke down and I yelled at myself in the mirror next to the treadmill to stop being a pussy, because that retraction that I took was that gravity pulling me back. And it was a reminder that maybe my vision still isn't clear enough. So I got to get back to work. So I was tough on myself today, and I cried tears of joy and frustration within the same minute, because I'm no longer afraid of failing. I'm afraid of being my greatest self. And I think so many people have possibilities within them that they have no understanding of, that it just gets lost. And that voice has been in my head for decades. There's no way that this is a mistake, that I'm supposed to help others and I'm supposed to be prosperous and I'm supposed to be loving and kind. And these are all things that, for me, I've been blessed enough to been bestowed as far as the value system that I have. But when I've strayed from those values, seeking out pleasure, sin, instant gratification, life is not good. When I sit back and I enjoy playing with my son, sitting on the floor, pushing the car back and forth 30 minutes in a row, he never gets tired. That puts things in perspective. And it also forces me to slow down and say, this is what really matters, bro. This is what really matters. All that other stuff, all those other things you're trying to accomplish are great, and you're going to get there. But don't miss this. He's only going to be 2 once. You're only going to get to sit down and play with toys, cars once. Again, 2 years ago, I would have just went downstairs, had a drink, watched some Netflix, another drink, 2, 3, whatever, and just not been present, because that's easier. Straight up, man. That's easier. Numbing shit other than dealing with it is easier. And I did that for decades. I paid for it. I blew millions of dollars. I was in terrible shape, and my marriage was on the rocks, to the point where divorce was on the table. And now I'm in the best shape of my life. I have the best perspective on life. I am the most loved I've ever been. Do I still struggle? Absolutely. Do I still feel lonely and alone at times? Yes. So for anybody that feels that way, it's normal, no matter how good shit is. How much money you got? Vacation, Grand Canyon last week? That was last week. I got realities today. But the maturity, the wins, and the time, the patience What an underrated superpower, right? I think we said before we got on and we started recording, I got the privilege and got to hike the Grand Canyon, 24 miles, rim to rim, north to south. That thing took millions upon millions of years to form. We're lucky if we get 100. What are we going to do with those 100? What are we going to leave behind? What is our legacy going to be?
Let me ask you this question. People like yourself, right? There's a level of obsession. There's a level of madness. It is this obsession and this madness just drives us to do the hard things when you don't have to.
Right.
You just said you came from the Grand Canyon, you had 1,200 things going in the business. You didn't have to get on the treadmill and push yourself, but you did it. What is it that you think makes you different than everybody else who's comfortable taking the easy way out? Who's comfortable saying, this is good enough? Why do I need to push? What message do you have for them? Why is it important? Push yourself to that limit.
That's a loaded question. Hey, you're good at this, but it's a great question. And I heard something telling today, which was if I've got to convince somebody or give them the reasons to get in the gym and go work out, they're not ready. They're not ready. If you're listening right now and you're truly okay with where you are in life, no matter how difficult or simple your life may be, God bless you. This isn't for you. But if you have an itch and you have a nagging voice in your head and it doesn't go away, then you need to face the reality that you're probably playing small. You're probably not living up to your own expectation of yourself. And that's the only one that matters. So if you feel less than, it's because you inside know that you are meant for more. So the first thing that you would do, in my humble opinion, is to define something, anything to start you moving, because staying the same and hearing that voice is torture. It's torture because you're punishing yourself. You're having an internal conversation that's saying, I know I'm better. I know I'm meant for more, but I'm comfortable. I'm just going to chill today. And then it comes back tomorrow, the day after, the week after, and this goes on and on. And I know that people have these conversations. So the difference is I act on them. I take action. For instance, Real Success Mentors. That was formed in team 8 years before I started making some moves on it. 9 years ago, I formed the corporation. I had a vision, very unclear, and it has graduated into now the Real Mentors podcast and speaking engagements and things of that nature. And eventually it will become what I want it to be, which is the nonprofit organization that will serve 10 million inner city youth and create real life examples of success. That's going to take me decade with an S at the end. It's not going to happen overnight. I am taking steps now that will get me to the next flight, and then the next flight, and the next flight. And by putting myself out there, I am then meeting people who are in the industry that I want to be in, who are already the boots on the ground, and I'm learning from them, and they're plugging me in, and they're networking me to others. Environment, we talk about the people that want to make progress, motion, action, do something, anything, because the more you fail and come back, the stronger you become. Just like your muscles in the gym. You can do it two ways. You can tear the muscle and it comes back stronger because it rebuilds itself stronger, or you can just not go to the gym and slowly start to deteriorate. Either way, progress is being made. Which direction is it being made in? That's your decision. So get yourself moving and get yourself around the people who are gonna pull you, not hold you back, not play scared, not tell you to be realistic. And unfortunately, you're going to have to seek those people out. But the beauty of it is we all have this amazing device nowadays, which we use for bullshit instead of productivity. Myself included. I do it for both, but I find myself scrolling way more than I should on social or just lollygagging. So, and you have everything you need today to make the progress that you want to make, but you got to stop telling yourself a lie. You got to look in the mirror and say, am I doing everything today to be my best self? And the answer is usually no. Even me on the treadmill this morning, that's me engaging me to have a conversation about me being my best self. I had to have that conversation with myself. I can't have that conversation with my wife. I can't have that conversation with you. That's an internal conversation. And I'm coming from a place of comfort. My life is very comfortable. And that has been the struggle, is to get out of that comfort zone. Comfort without fulfillment is like purgatory, because you got all the creature comforts, but nothing lights you up. You don't appreciate any of it. You take it all for granted. So it's been a struggle to get from a place where poverty, fall on my ass, go to prison, learn all the lessons, build a great business, get married, have kids, not happy. Why not? All right, I got to seek out an answer. And the answer was, I'm not doing anything to help others outside of my home. Now, Raising a family is the hardest thing you'll ever do. That is a great purpose to have. And for some people, if that fills up your tank and that's what you're capable of doing, that's great. But I personally know I'm capable of holding it down here and doing great things in the world and helping others. And because I haven't acted on that until recently, even with all this stuff, So we got to be doing something to step into our purpose. And a lot of times that is helping others, because giving truly is living. Putting others before yourself is both selfish and selfless. Selfish in that it makes you feel great, so you're doing it for that reason, but selfless in that you're giving of your time, your energy, and sometimes your money to impact and make better the life of someone else. And that's priceless, and that's selfless. Again, everything is yin and yang.
Talked about the three core principles, right? Vision, belief, faith, more than anybody else. That sometimes when you're down at the bottom, you're just looking to survive. It's so difficult to have a vision. You and I both came from the streets. You and I have both been in situations where trying to find a meal thing. So if I'm listening to this podcast and I'm saying, yeah, Sean is saying all these wonderful things, and that's great. And I'm in a place in my life, but I don't even know what it means to have a vision. What do you tell them? How do they get started? What's the process?
First, I'll tell them, just don't quit. You're exactly where you need to be right now. This struggle is building muscles that you can't see, and you can't see the value in it. You can't, but that's where faith comes in. Suffering can be the best teacher that life has. And some of us, unfortunately, suffer more than others. And some of us suffer terrible traumas that cannot be excused. However, if you choose to stay in that place of trauma, disappointment, resentment, pain, then that is a choice. It's incumbent upon the person suffering to seek out help. You cannot do it on your own, whether it's just digging yourself out of a hole or it's building a new business. You cannot do it on your own. People are your greatest resource. And unfortunately, when we get to these deep, dark places, we're alone. We're suffering, and oftentimes we're suffering alone. Part of the process, unfortunately, I don't know how to tell anybody how to get out of their particular dark place at the moment. All I can tell them is hang on and don't give up. Hang on and don't give up. Don't quit. At some point, things will shift. They will change in your favor. You have to survive. So you mentioned surviving. Where I grew up, where you grew up, it was about survival. People weren't taking vacations. They weren't living. They were surviving. We had credit at the corner store because we couldn't make 2 weeks till my mother got paid to afford all the things that we needed. So the guy at the store would give us a line of credit, and come the second paycheck, second week, we go pay off the debt, $100, whatever it was at the store. Survival is not sexy. Survival is not but let me tell you something. Survival is a beautiful lesson that you cannot appreciate what it's teaching you until and if you are fortunate enough to make it out. Some people aren't. Let's be honest. Most people won't. Most people will not make it out. I struggle with this because I understand that in my profession, there's this idea that shit's all good. It's not. Not everybody can win. Not everybody can do that. To those people, I'm just saying this. Don't quit. Don't give up. There's something better on the other side of this suffering. Most people that take their own lives feel that there's no way out. And if they just had hope, they just saw that there was a possibility for things to be better, they wouldn't have done that. And
It's a drug, my friend. Hope is a drug. And if we can use that drug properly, it could change lives. Sometimes end our lives because we are not on that drug anymore. Sometimes we need to surround ourselves with people, like you said, have conversations to be able to use that drug of hope to keep us moving forwards. Because the deepest and the darkest of the times, as bad as they are, they only last for so long. At the end of the day, the sun does rise. We just have to figure out a way to get through the night. Right. A lot of us, we just feel like the night's never going to end. And talking about suffering, most people go through life looking to avoid pain. Champions go through life looking for pain. You don't have to do the 12 million things you're doing. You just came back from hiking Grand Canyon. What are you talking about walking on a treadmill?
I had that conversation with myself too.
You're still doing it, and you're getting mad at yourself for not performing the best you can. Because that's what a true champion is made of.
We're working on becoming that. And some people are fortunate enough to be groomed to be champions young. Kobe's dad just passed away. And most people may have not known that his dad was a professional basketball player, predominantly in Europe. I don't think he may have played here in the States for a little bit, but Europe. And Jelly Bean Bryant, I believe is. And Kobe got to see that growing up. And that laid the foundation for who would become the greatest basketball player of our generation, post Michael Jordan. You can have the conversation about LeBron if you want to. Kobe Bryant is still, in many's opinion, Michael Jordan, the next coming. He had the good fortune of being born into a guy, a family. They had the work ethic. They knew what it would take. But then his dad either didn't have the tools or he wasn't putting in enough work. I don't know, but Kobe took it to the next level. Steph Curry, same thing. So these are people that we idolize. And they're easy examples to draw from, but they're very difficult examples to emulate. So if you're somebody who's just survived and you have children, don't give up, because your children may then birth the next Michael Jordan. Maybe your child won't be Michael Jordan, but maybe they can get to the amateurs and then they can raise a kid who can get to the pros. Generational progress. And that is the understanding of patience, time, legacy. And that only comes with maturity. That only comes with understanding and an honest reflection on your life. Again, we spoke about the greatest, right? Because you said champions. And I'll use the word king, right? With two men here. And we're kings of our small kingdoms. Now, there's kings who have large kingdoms. There's kings who rule percentages of the world. But there are millions of kings who are kings of their household, kings of their communities, kings of their familial structure, patriarchs, matriarchs in the female sense. They're just people who lead people around them. Don't discount the value of that. We don't have to be Kobe fucking Bryant. We don't have to be Steph fucking Curry, okay? We don't. But set out with the understanding that if you do not lean into a little bit of pain and doing hard things, you will stay absolutely the same, and your kids will probably stay just the same. And I'll use this example before we move on, which is I'm raised in a housing project in the Bronx, New York. Generational welfare recipients. Their parents are on welfare. They're on welfare. And now they just had a kid, and the kid is going to allow them to get some extra money. So they're generational welfare recipients living next door to my single mom who got up every day and worked for the city of New York. I don't think she ever made more than $50,000 in a year, but that taught me the work ethic that I needed to then go on my own journey. So she didn't see the fruits of her labor, but I can imagine, and I know because she tells me how proud she is of what I'm doing today. And she can be proud of herself because she's the biggest reason for me being who I am. And to all the parents out there who are struggling, you are the light for your children. Find the strength to do a little more than just survive, but also have the faith to know that all the struggling and the suffering that you're going through is probably going to make the lives of your children better. And let that be the pull. Let that be the affirmation that your struggling is not in vain. And just to put things in perspective, growing up in the projects, my mom worked for welfare. So she was a social worker. So she would help all of these people. And I guess now I understand where I get it from. It's from my mom, who's very generous and very giving and very compassionate. She would seek to help these people who are on hard times. When my little brother and sister were born, she decided to go on welfare, public assistance, because if you're working, you get, 6 weeks paid leave, and then you got to go back to work. She stood on welfare for about a year because she knew how the system worked and she used it to her advantage. And guess what, bro? We did better on welfare. So you're not talking to somebody who's, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, create your own. Fuck that. The government's not going to save you. I'm telling you straight up, I've seen it. Working and making 50 grand in a single parent household, welfare check, rent goes down, $200, food stamps, whatever. I don't even remember. I could reach in my pocket right now and get what we got in a month. But the point was, we still did better on welfare than we did when she was working. And I think that's the struggle that the people who have never gone through don't understand. Sometimes it is better to take the easy route. And that's a societal, financial, whole different conversation. But I just want people to understand that I get it. I've been on welfare. I had credit at the corner store. I've been in prison, seen it all, but I'm not making excuses. And you shouldn't either, because when you start to look outward for an explanation or a reason or an excuse, it just robs you of your ability to move forward. And I stopped doing that shit a long time.
It's human nature to take the easy way out. There's a reason why you and I are both sitting down and not having this conversation standing up.
All right, I'm
Right?
up. I'm up.
It's human nature,
You're
but
right.
it's also understanding when it's worth it and when it's not, to be able to pick your battles wisely. And you talked about the championship mentality, right? You're right. Not everybody has to be a Kobe Bryant. Not everybody has to be a Steph Curry. But if I'm mowing grass, I could strive to be the best land mower there is. If I'm a stay-at-home mom, if I'm a stay-at-home dad, I'm running a small job, a business, whatever. As long as we're striving to be the absolute best version of ourselves so that we can go to bed at night knowing we did everything we could have today. And then tomorrow's a new day, I'm going to push even harder. That's a fulfilling life.
Yes, it is. And it's building up your own self confidence. Like, you don't have to be a champion. Nobody's going to put the belt around your waist. We're a fucking winner in life. You fed your kids. They're healthy. They're happy. They're educated. Or the wins don't have to be monumental. They don't have to be monumental. If you can escape the projects and go get an apartment in a nicer part of the Bronx, that's a win. That's a win. You know what I mean? The life that I lead now is a huge win. And the life that I am called to lead is an even bigger win. That's my journey. And my journey wasn't that I had a dad to teach me the ropes. I just had a mom with a big heart. And that was my journey. But now I have a son and I have a daughter, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I think children, too, give us perspective because now I get to see the eyes or see life through the eyes of my 7-year-old child and my 2-year-old child because I'm very invested in them. And it's just amazing to watch how human beings develop. And it's amazing to compare it to how I was raised. And again, I have a different style. I don't know that it's going to work, but I have faith that we have made progress. I have taken all the things that I've been taught by my mother and all those people that loved me growing up that served me. And I have trimmed all the fat away, the things that didn't serve me, the lessons that they were, or the things they were doing that I now realize weren't productive or weren't cool. Take what you need, leave the crap, but just keep moving forward.
Sean, you overcame challenges in your own youth, teenagehood, young adulthood, going to jail, coming out of it, starting businesses, taking on a project to touch the lives of 10 million kids. You didn't have to do any of that. You could have just fixed up your own life, got a nice family, had your kids, had a great life. The fact that you went above and beyond, the fact that every single day you strive to be better version of yourself, not only just for yourself, but also for your family, but also for the larger community, it speaks volumes about the type of person you are, the type of character you have, the type of energy you create with yourself. So it's been nothing but an honor and a pleasure getting to know you, my friend. And thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Mark. Truly a pleasure.